Welcome to the Focused Fundraiser. This is where I get to discuss how to focus on the right fundraising practices with fundraisers and consultants and those in the space that have deep knowledge. Because we believe that doing more shouldn't be the goal for any of us. Focusing on what matters most and what is actually working is the goal. Today's guest sits at the intersection of fundraising strategy and the technology powering it. Noah Barnett has spent years helping nonprofits rethink how they build relationships with donors and how their tools help either hinder or help that work. So Noah will be also speaking at the WellTold Conference here in April. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, welcome, Noah. Start us off by sharing a bit about yourself and your path to the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I love being able to come on and talk to you all. So thank you all for being here as well. As you mentioned, my career started in nonprofits. So I spent the first 6-7 years working in-house, working on recurring giving programs, and then ultimately had the opportunity to lead all of the growth programs, everything from donor services and donor care, all the way through major gifts and planned giving and acquisition. And it was just a crash course on like what it requires to truly build a sustainable and really scalable strategy for growth. And so I had the opportunity then to do some consulting in and around the nonprofit space. And then the last 10 years, I've had the privilege working with technology partners like DonorDoc and others to really help nonprofits think about how they can use technology in partnership with their people and their processes to really help them build sustainable fundraising programs. And just love doing it. Love networking and connecting with both consultants and nonprofit professionals, but also do advising and coaching as well.
That's awesome. We'll dive into the strategy pieces here in a bit, but let's talk about WellTold first. So WellTold, for those listening, it is a one-day conference that's bringing together fundraisers to help you sharpen your storytelling, to help you sharpen your leadership skills, and just to help you focus on what matters most. So Noah, you are a part of this event. Who do you think should make it a priority to attend WellTold, and what will they walk away with?
Yeah. So for those that haven't attended, you're in the same boat I am. This will be my first time actually attending, but I am excited to attend and also be able to have the opportunity to speak with the group because I think it's just this network of practitioners, whether you're on the consulting side or the actual in-house side, that are working together to come up with actual practical things to do. The goal of WellTold from, what you've shared, Rob, and others, and what I've experienced from people that have attended in the past is you don't walk away with a list of things that you should do, but you actually walk away with more clarity on what matters most within your organization's context and how you can provide, or basically build out from some of the best practices, but apply it to your actual organization. And I think that's what makes the conference different. But also, it's just an opportunity for you to be around your peers. So much of our world is so kind of disjointed now. And anytime you can really connect with other people doing nonprofit leadership, doing fundraising, doing storytelling is a huge opportunity. And WellTold is just one of those venues where you can do that.
Can't wait for your session. Noah, are you speaking? Or are you running a panel? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's a mystery. I'm going to keep it a surprise.
Well,
But
for those
there will
listening,
be
yeah,
me and there will be content. And usually people end up walking away with something concrete that they can do in the week and next
oh, yeah,
months ahead. So that's all I'm going to
yeah.
tell you.
This is the speaker lineup. Noah's one of them. It's a fantastic speaker lineup. We have Clay Buck. We've got Crystal Cherry, Sherry Taylor. There's some really deep knowledge sector hands that are going to be here that are going to give you actionable takeaways, not just inspiration, but it's a hands-on event. So you're going to want to come here because you're going to leave a better leader, that better fundraiser, and a better storyteller from it. So I'll put links in the description for that and in the comments. So sign up. It's coming up here in April. All right, let's dive into it, Noah. I want to start with talking about relational fundraising. What does it actually look like for fundraising teams that they all have to-do lists that are longer than they can ever accomplish? How do fundraising teams prioritize and fit in stewardship so they can actually do relational fundraising versus transactional fundraising?
Yeah. So I think there's two ways you can approach funding a mission that matters in the world. The first is that you can look at it as we are doing this work in this mission, whether it's, planting trees, saving children, trying to invoke policy change. And you can see that as that's the work. And our job is to basically go out and find dollars to ensure that we can continue to sustain that work. That's transactional fundraising. It's very much like we just need the funding to do the work. The second part, our second approach, is you can see that the work we're doing, whatever the mission is actually a collective effort by a community of people. Some of those people actually work internally. Other times, those people are maybe partners you're working with to get the work done. But also your funders or your donors or your supporters, your volunteers, your community of individuals. And so there's kind of this like kind of commercial way to look at it and a community way to look at it. And so some might call that relational and transactional fundraising. But I think fundamentally it's like, what do you actually believe the job to be done is? Is it about rallying a community of people, or is it about finding dollars to be able to fund the work that you know you want to do? And again, I think there's a case for both of those. Yet what I've seen in my, career working in and around and with nonprofits is that when you think about your work as a community, some are on staff, some are partners, some are funders, some are donors, etc. You think more relationally by design because, yes, we are all still bringing different resources to the table. Some of them might be labor, some might be expertise, others, it may be money, funding, whether it's a grantee, a corporate partner, individuals, family foundation, whatever. We're bringing our assets to the table, but it's still a group of people coming together to work on a problem that needs to be solved. And that's fundamentally, without getting into like the tactical or details, there's a lot of commentary on it. It fundamentally starts with this philosophy. Like, what do you believe the work to be done is? And you're either on one side or the other. And if you don't have that conversation, you cannot then apply tactically the right strategies to be able to accomplish it. Because I think there's a bunch of people out there that actually fundamentally believe in the commercial model, the commercialized model of our job is to do X and we need to find dollars to make that possible. Then they go out and begin applying some of this like relational fundraising approach. And like, it just doesn't fundamentally work because the philosophy of the organization has decided that they are running this transactional or kind of commercial model versus a community model. And so that's where I would like draw people in, is like to take an honest look and say, like, fundamentally, what do we actually believe as an organization as like the foundation of, what our organization is all about? Is it community or is it dollars?
Yeah. I think that's super powerful to basically take a step above and talk through the strategy and the why behind how you're approaching it. I think that's super powerful. On the
Yeah, and
strategy
I think
side,
just to kind of
yeah,
on this though, but I think this is where like you'll have directors of development or you'll have heads of marketing or heads of communications that are well-intentioned people, like, and they come into an org, they get, put in charge of saying, hey, you're here to help lead our fundraising. And we want to think about sustainable growth, et cetera. And they're like, great, we're going to apply a relational, or, what I've done a lot of talking about and writing about is around like responsive kind of fundraising approach where it's about the people and we're going to do all of these different things. And then they fundamentally get continued pushback, no funding for technology, no funding and kind of desire to fund any type of program that's like doesn't direct response into dollars. They're fighting with the board. They're fighting with the executive director. The program staff's like, just do your work and we'll do ours. Like, and so then there's this culture clash, not because there's a lack of desire or intention or strategic like intent or even good ideas. It's that there's a cultural problem underneath. And so like you really like if I was sitting in a fundraising chair right now, like for one, I would need to say like, what is my organization's philosophy? And then what is my philosophy as it relates to that? Then let's figure out what the right playbook is that we need to run. And some of that might be that I need to find a new org.
and for so many fundraisers out there, it can feel like strategy is so often the thing you talk about once a year during your planning meeting, and then it's just putting out fires the rest of the year. So sometimes it can feel like strategy is really only used and useful for these large enterprise nonprofits. My question to you would be, are there moves that lean teams, that smaller teams can make that would improve their donor engagement or get their strategy aligned so that they can be relational if that's what they're wanting to go after rather than transactional?
Yeah, so I have a framework called the growth pot. And it sounds weird. I need to probably rebrand it. I'm a marketer, so I need to figure that out. But the idea is like, okay, we're going to come up with a growth strategy. And your growth strategy is going to be something that you might set on a quarterly basis. I think if you're a really lean organization, you might even set it on a monthly basis, but no longer than a quarterly basis. And what this fundamentally requires you to do is to sit down as a team and say, what are our primary priorities right now in the organization? And so that's the P of the pot. The secondary P is, okay, given these priorities, and those priorities could be, hey, we need to acquire new donors. The second might be, we need to establish our corporate partnership program because it's an underinvested, part of our, fundraising mix. And the other one might be, we actually need to, reinvest in the base because we've spent a lot of time acquiring new supporters, but we've realized that we haven't spent enough time really like cultivating return investment and kind of like longevity within the supporter base. So these might be your three objectives. Within that, you're then going to establish like, what are the actual plays I'm going to run within each of these? And so it might be corporate partnerships. Like we need to establish a corporate partnership program. That's a priority. But it might be, okay, we're going to go interview and talk to the 5 corporate partners that have actually supported us in the last 12 months. That would be like a play we're going to run because, some of your best insights on how to find future supporters is to better understand your current supporters. I always say like what you know about your current supporters is going to inform how you find your next best supporters. And so that might be a play. On the retention side, it might be, hey, we're actually going to go review what our, lie bunt, sci bunt strategies are. So it's like when a supporter falls off, like what are we actually doing there? And we want to go basically audit and rebuild our workflow. Like that's a play. The O I'll come back to, but the T in pot is your targets. And so within each of these, it's like, okay, we're prioritizing acquisition. That's great. What are the actual metrics of success for there? So it could be, hey, we want to acquire 1,000 donors this quarter. It could be that we want to be able to acquire donors for X amount of dollars per new donor. Like there's a bunch of different targets you could measure. Corporate partnerships could be, we want to find, 3 new corporate partners that have never given to the organization. And that would showcase that we've at least rebuilt, the corporate sponsorship program, et cetera. So that's the things. And then the mission, or the O, stands for omissions. This is the hardest part for organizations, is there are so many good ideas or things that we have done in the past or that the board suggests, your executive director loves, or even maybe you as a development director did in your previous job, that you just need to get out in the open. You need to get it out of your head, out of your team's head, and put it on a piece of paper and say, these are all good ideas. We are not doing them. And so you have to build out your omissions list of like, we could do this to acquire new donors and we are choosing not to, at least during this season. We could do this to retain our current supporters. We are choosing not to do this. And so you build out your omissions list. This actually creates what I call like a placemat. That's just as simple. You can actually have it on one slide, one piece of paper, whatever. Now, the real test here to keep people in focus is that you then need to complement this planning session with what we call like weekly rhythms. And these weekly rhythms are things like, hey, every Monday, we're going to start with the placemat and say, hey, remember, this is the placemat of what we're doing this quarter. Like, let's start our week and open this container of what we call work around this idea of here are the priorities, here are the targets, here are the plays that we're running. Now, hey, Julie and John, what are we doing around these? How are these going? And we're going to talk about them, right? Then maybe on Friday, we're going to have a session where we're going to say, hey, what did we do this week against, here's the play mat. Remember, here's the thing. Let's keep it in front of everyone so we don't forget. Most people, I think most leadership is actually like being the chief reminder officer. And I think we like undervalue just reminding people because it seems annoying. But it's like, no, every week we're going to revisit this again and say, what did we accomplish this week? What are we celebrating? How are we actually moving the needles on these? Like, how are we doing on these targets? And again, I think complementing these planning sessions then with kind of established kind of organizational rhythms with either your team, and even if you're one person, you can do this exact same exercise just with yourself. Hey, here's the play mat. Here's the things. What am I celebrating? Maybe even get a peer that's outside your organization to sit in on those meetings and be a sounding board. Use AI as your sounding board. Check in with AI twice a week if you're, a solo kind of leader in a lean team. It's that ensures that your strategy doesn't get what I call bookshelved, like many of these books up here, that just get dusty, right? It's an exercise we do to make ourselves feel better that we have a plan, and then we never revisit it. And then what that leaves room for is all of these like nice to have, should haves. Oh, well, what about this? I saw John's organization did a fundraiser last week. Like, have we thought about doing like an auction where we auction off benefits at corporate partners? Then we get partners to pay us because it's basically a marketing expense. And like, this sounds like a really good idea. And it's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with our priorities that we have right now. It's just a good idea.
I think that's fantastic. I've heard it said that as humans, with strategic level decisions, we have about a 90-day memory, and we have to revisit the strategy in 90 days. But inside of that, we need to break it down into, to your point, like weekly rhythms and cadences of this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And revisit every 90 days is a huge piece to it as well. So underneath all of this, the foundational piece is the technology can't be ignored. It's a piece of enabling strategy and fundraising and all this. A lot of organizations, they feel buried in the tools that they're using. They've got a CRM and then a separate fundraising platform, an email platform, project management platform, and now AI tools. How should fundraisers decide what technology actually can help their relationships and building and nurturing and stewarding versus what's just adding noise and cognitive load to their tool set?
Yeah, I think so often it's similar to the first question we had, but I'll just kind of reorient this. And maybe this is just my like default thinking and bias here, is that like when we have a technology conversation, we always say, what can this technology do? And it sounds so, it's like, yeah, of course, that's like what technology does. But I think that's the wrong question. The question we should go relate with technology is like, what are we trying to do? It's super subtle. Like, what does this tool do versus what are we trying to do are very different questions. And I think when you start with what are we trying to do, what you end up realizing is that you have a bunch of people, maybe one, maybe 4 or 5, whatever. You have some processes you need to run, and you have a strategy of like, these are the things that we've chose to prioritize. We'll keep the examples: corporate partnerships, donor acquisition, donor retention, and recovery. We're trying to do all of this. We have 1 person, 5 people, etc. And we have a set of processes that we run today. And here's kind of like what our workflow looks like. And here's like the struggles and the problems. And like, here's where like, I have to do something and then I have to export something and send it over here. And like this process feels really like complicated, right? But I still need to do the work. I think that's the work I need to do. I'm not doing random things for no reason. It's like I'm doing this for a purpose because this is the work to be done. Once we know what we are trying to do, we can then go find tools that complement our people and processes to be able to help us do what we need to do, not what the tools can do. This is why until you know what you're trying to do, you should not go talk to a technology vendor, because their job is to help show you how much you can do with their tool and their platform. And the great ones will actually back their way into this by starting with what you're trying to do, and then they'll work back to map that jobs to be done over top of their technology and show you exactly how to do what you want to do with their tools and make your life better. But if you don't know what you want to do, or you haven't really asked those questions internally, they're just going to show you what you can do. And I don't know about you, but have you been to like the Houston Space Station thing, like the museum, or there's one in DC too, where you can like walk in and see the spaceship? It's very impressive. Like you're like, holy crap, this spaceship can do everything, Or if you watch Formula One, you're like, these cars are incredible. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, Or you watch like any elite type performance thing, or kind of like, oh my gosh, they can re-land rockets back down. Like, that's insane. Like, that's amazing. And it's like, well, do you want it? And it's like, can I have it? Like, I could do that. And it's like, but do I need to do that, right? Do I need a rocket ship right now, right? Like, I'm not sure because I don't know what I'm trying to do. If I'm just trying to get from like my house 3 miles down the road to my office every day, and I just need to get from A to B every day seamlessly while listening to a podcast, I probably don't need like an F1 car or a spaceship. So like this is the problem I think that we get disappointed with technology, but I think there is an underlying factor here. It's because we adopted technology because what the technology could have done, but we never kind of map that back to like what are we trying to do? And so when you think about like tool overwhelm, it's just like I have a bunch of stuff in my tool bag, but again, like all I do is use command strips. Like, like I'm not drilling holes or like sanding anything or doing like literally I hung some stuff up with command strips, right? Like I don't need a toolbox. I just needed some sticky things that I like shoved the thing on the wall. But again, that was like what I was trying to do. But I could have this like beautiful tool bag, but now I'm just frustrated because I'm carrying it around and never using it. And like that's where I think the disenchantment with technology comes into play, where it's like we have a skepticism towards technology because it's just like, oh, they promised to do so much, but like in reality, it did very little. And I'm with that. I've been selling technology and helping build technology for 10 years now. And like, still, that's the fundamental thing. Like, you don't need technology if you don't know what you're doing. Like, technology doesn't solve the what should we do problem. It only helps you do what you need to do, maybe more effectively and efficiently, and helps you build something that's sustainable. But again, it starts fundamentally of like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? And what's the reality of our team? What's the reality of our processes? I'm going to make this really practical all of a sudden. The thing I come back to, and I've believed this about so many different things, and I think it's why I'm so bullish on DonorDoc, but it's why I'm bullish on like this idea in general, is that one of the things that is essential when you're thinking about being a lean team, whether you're a $20 million team or a $200,000 team, is that if your data is scattered everywhere, it's always going to require more work by you as a human, no matter what integration, native thing, etc. Because there's not a central source of truth. And so that's like pragmatically where I tend to get and start with, kind of going back to like first principles, is like your technology and your tools should sit on top of a single data set. Because if you don't have a single data set, you begin treating each of these like functions, whether it's like digital fundraising or email marketing or even like donor stewardship and major gifts officer, they're all operating in silos if they don't sit on the same data set. Then when you go up and say, we as a team really want an integrated, holistic view of our supporters, we want to do relationship fundraising, you fundamentally cannot, because you've already segmented your data into 3 Janes. You actually don't know who Jane is because you have 3 Janes in your data set. Like that doesn't work. So that's the pragmatic side as data is like, if you're trying to do a holistic view of the supporters, it has to map down to a holistic view of your data.
For those listening, if you're going to take away one thing, I think that monologue right there was so good because it's talking about how technology should support what you're trying to do, not you backing into the technology that looks the fanciest or has the best marketing, and that your data should be your foundation. Relationships are built off of that, or you're just going to be managing the few people that you can keep in your head and not have the data to support the 500 people that you need to manage and build relationships
100%.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes
No,
back to
I
those
always
first principles. Yeah. Like
yeah.
at the end of the day. And I think too, especially in the world of AI, so people are like, there's lots of buzz around AI. We're not going to get into it a lot today, but like AI is even more important. Like with AI, it's even more important to have this view. Like, what are we actually trying to do? And do we actually have kind of a data infrastructure, which sounds really complicated? It's not. It's just like having a central place for all your data that actually supports that. Because then like AI can actually do a lot of work. But again, if you have 3 Janes and AI doesn't know the difference, like it can't really help you do anything, right? Just like people can't. So
Yeah. Something I saw the other day that I absolutely loved is people are lost in context and AI is lost whatever
100%.
you're doing, it's context and it's data. No, I always end with what I call the tactical takeaway question. This is something that listeners and fundraisers can do today. So, Noah, what is one thing that every fundraiser should do today that you believe matters most?
They should, if they have access to it, they should run a report of who gave to you on this day last year. And then you should reach out to them and say, 1 year ago, on March 10th is when we're recording this, 2025, you decided to take the risk and invest in our organization. Thank you.
Yeah,
It could be a
that's
phone
powerful.
call, it could be an email, it could be et cetera. They forgot what they did a year ago. Again, the power of reminder is so important. And you and your organization can do that for your community today by just running a report. And if you don't have a report, just like, I don't know, think of 5 donors that gave to you last year at some point and like just reach out to them. It's not only going to make them feel incredible, but I think if you just spend 30 minutes like thanking 5 people to start your day, like you're going to feel so accomplished. Like you're going to be energized because you're going to be like reminded of the work that you get to do every day and how privileged it is to basically be able to connect people's, you know, vision of who they want to be and what they want to be a part of using dollars or using volunteer hours to connect to that mission. And you're literally just the conduit to help facilitate that. And they might be having a terrible Tuesday. And you just reached out to them and reminded them that last year they took a chance and partnered with us to make a huge difference. Like that lights everybody up.
Yeah. And it sparks their purpose behind what they're doing. If this conversation resonates with you, you're not going to want to miss WellTold in April because there's going to be more conversation like this there, more speakers talking about powerful ideas and takeaways, but also community to bounce ideas off of others. So make sure that you join us there and continue learning from experts like Noah, Clay Buck, Crystal Cherry. There's so many good speakers that we're going to have. And you're going to walk away not just inspired, but with actions to take right now. I'll put links in the description and in the comments to sign up for the event coming up here in April. Noah, thank you so much for giving your expertise today. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
About WellTold. One thing I have this theory on, and this is going to take us back to maybe some of your all's like nightmares in high school, but in physics, there's this concept called like collisions, right? Like, and it's like, okay, well, 2 things collide. You actually can't predict the outcome of those unless you know like the masses of both objects and a bunch of other details, right? But what's interesting is that if I put myself in an environment where the collisions that I'm likely to have are going to be net positive, right? I don't know exactly what they're going to be, but I can assume that this is my type of place where like if I collide with these other rocks, like the net outcome is going to be positive. And I think that's the invitation for WellTold is like, come into the space curious, knowing that we've curated an environment of other rocks that you're going to collide with, that the likely net outcome is that you're all going to walk away with a kind of net positive impact response. And that's the unpredictable thing that makes gathering together with your peers like so powerful, because it's not just you and the other, it's the outcome of that collision that we're building towards.
Well said. Noah, thank you so much for joining. And
thanks so much,
if
Rob.
you guys, you can always DM us on Facebook and find Noah and myself. I'm sorry, Facebook. On LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook.
I actually deleted my Facebook account the other day, so I don't have a Facebook account. You can't find me.
I still have it from Marketplace. That's about it. But yeah, find us on LinkedIn, DM us. We're always willing and excited to share and learn together. So we will see you next week.
Thanks, Rob. See you, everybody.